Hello, our name is Baranouskaya and Kuzmina. The sum of our scientific work is features of the dissemination of information and changes in demand for essential goods among the population of Belarus during the COVID-19 pandemic. Our main goal is to study ways of disseminating information and the impact of information on the Belarusian population. For this, we developed 3 tasks and interviewed more than 300 people. The data can be viewed by the link at the end of the presentation. We divided them into 2 age categories: younger, 0 till 25 years old, and older, 25 till 100.
The first block will begin with an unpleasant topic of fake information. This problem is relevant now as 84.4% of represents made fakes. Why are fakes so dangerous? We can list endlessly. For example, in Britain, at least 20 telecommunication towers were attacked by vandals because they believe that 5G has a certain effect on the symptoms of coronavirus disease. Fake information is used to mislead in order to obtain financial or political benefits. Because of this, 92.1% of respondents believe that responsibility for dissemination of false information should be introduced.
The lack of fake information also forms the popularity of various communication sources. What is the most popular source of communication among respondents? We have identified 6 main channels for the dissemination of information that you see on this slide. We analyzed the information and made a chart that reflects the popularity. We also want to add that only 23.2% of respondents learn data from one source, and 3.2% of respondents use all sources at once.
On this slide, you should pay attention to the fact that different age groups give preference to different sources. In the data, it's possible to find regularity that young people use social networks and internet sources, when the older population prefers state news channels and gossip from relatives.
Pay attention to the graph on the left. It reflects the trust of the population in different sources of information trust. Also, 4% of respondents believe that there is no reliable source and are skeptical of all information. 1.3% work in medical institutions and trust the information that they themselves receive. We turn to a comparison of the number of people using and trusting a certain source. The diagram is on the right. In general, trust in source is much less than use. A vivid example is the VK social network, since trust in it is almost 4 times less than use.
How information affects the emotional state of the population. TV news changed the emotional state of 15% of respondents, Telegram channels 26%. At this stage, we noticed a paradox. Pay attention to the right diagram. The number of people who are emotionally influenced by a group in VK and the opinion of relatives is higher than a number of people who trust these sources. Only 6% of respondents state that their emotional state is stable. The information has no effect.
Every day we receive a huge amount of information, and it cannot but affect our attitude to what is happening. For example, 80% of respondents experience anxiety for their health and the health of their loved ones. This is more characterized of the old groups. 92% are anxious, in the younger age group 76%.
Did the information affect lifestyle? 41% of the population decided to isolate themselves. 81% of self-isolated are students. 39% of population also minimized their contact and carried out of their movement only to work and home. 90% ignore all recommendations and don't change anything in their lifestyle. 78% of people who are ignored are students. Next, we decided to find the rate of students who listen to quarantine advice and who completely ignore it. Look at the bottom right corner. Data shows us that 81% of students reduced contact with other people. Only 90% didn't change anything in their life.
Has your shopping habits changed in your country? In our country, the number of purchased products has not changed at 52.8%. 16.9% of respondents slightly increased the number of purchases. 9.2% prefer to buy products for a week. Of these, 92% take advice on reducing the spread of COVID-19. 21.1% try to buy products for a month. Of these, 21.1% of respondents, 66.6%, are in self-isolation. These statistics indicate that half of the respondents try to reduce their presence in stores and purchase products for the future.
In Russia, the population was faced with a situation of mass buying up backweight and toilet paper. Have backweight and toilet paper been bought in Belarus? Belarusians are not disposed to buy backweight and toilet paper. 76% of respondents didn't buy backweight and toilet paper for future use. 90% decided to take some units for future use. But 85% of them changed their buying habits in favor to buying product for a week or a month. It's time to take stock at the time of the poll on April. The population don't have a defined favorite that they use, trust and not be afraid. The population is trying to get as much information as possible and often forget to check it for fakes, which leads to an impact on their mental stability. As for the demand for essential goods, demand has not changed. Yes, some began to buy more, but also began to leave the house less. We also advise you to stay home and wash your hands. Thank you for your attention.